The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Threll's translator clicked in Word, processing the human delegation's response. Around the circular platform, representatives from 47 species waited with various appendages crossed, hoping the answer would be favorable. "You want to clarify?" Threll repeated slowly, his three eyes narrowing in confusion. "When we requested military assistance against the Vorak swarm, you agreed to send your prisoners?" Commander Patricia Morrison stood unflinching at the podium, her dress uniform crisp despite the long journey from Earth. "Not just any prisoners, Ambassador. We're sending individuals deemed too dangerous for conventional incarceration, the ones our own military couldn't eliminate." A wave of concerned chittering rippled through the assembly. The Cathara delegates' tentacles coiled in distress. "You send us criminals? Murderers? This is your solution?" Morrison's expression remained neutral. "We send you survivors." 3 weeks later, Jessica cracked her knuckles as the transport ship's bay doors groaned open, revealing the hellscape that was Outpost Kryn 7. The red planet's surface was scarred with craters, the remnants of orbital bombardments that had failed to stop the Vorak's advance. Around her, 99 other volunteers checked their gear with the casual efficiency of people who had nothing left to lose. "Think they'll actually let us go free after this?" asked Jack, adjusting the plasma rifle on his shoulder. His augmented left arm, a souvenir from the Detroit incident of 41, hummed softly as servos calibrated to the planet's gravity. Jessica smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Does it matter? Earth wanted us dead. At least here, we get to choose how we go out." She studied her squad mate with the practiced assessment of someone who had survived 12 years in the Mars penal colony. Jack had been convicted of destroying an entire black site research facility, killing 43 people to expose illegal human experimentation. The courts called it terrorism. The inmates called it justice. His augmented arm was ironic, considering what he'd done. Jessica's own crimes were simpler. She had refused to die. Enhanced reflexes, accelerated healing, and a nervous system that had been illegally modified for deep space combat trials made her simultaneously invaluable and terrifying. When she'd escaped the program that created her, they'd sent teams to eliminate her. 17 teams, none successful. "Attention, human squad." A holographic projection materialized. A Galactic Council liaison officer whose species Jessica couldn't identify. "The Voraks have breached the western perimeter. All defensive positions have fallen. You are to—" The transmission cut out as explosions rocked the compound. Screams echoed across the comm channels. Alien screams, high-pitched and terrified. Then came another sound, the chittering, clicking horror of the Vorak swarm. "Well," Jack said, chambering around, "guess diplomacy's over." Jessica was already moving. The Voraks were everything the briefings had promised. Fast, numerous, and utterly without mercy. They poured across the compound like a living tide. Each creature the size of a large dog, covered in chitinous armor and wielding blade-like appendages sharp enough to slice through battle plating. The alien defenders fell back in panic, their disciplined formations disintegrating into chaos. Centuries of civilized warfare had left them unprepared for an enemy that felt no pain, knew no fear, and gave no quarter. The humans advanced. Jessica moved through the swarm like a dancer through water. Her modified nervous system processed threats faster than conscious thought, her body reacting before her mind fully registered the danger. She didn't fight the Voraks. She flowed around them, through them, leaving a trail of shattered carapaces in her wake. Beside her, Jack's augmented arm punched through Voraks with mechanical precision, each strike calculated for maximum efficiency. But it was his human arm, the one that could still feel, that held the detonator for the trap he'd been setting. 3 seconds, 2, 1. The explosion collapsed an entire section of tunnel, burying dozens of Voraks under tons of rubble. "You always were good with demolitions," Jessica observed, not breaking stride as she redirected 2 Vorak soldiers into each other's blades. "Prison teaches you useful skills," Jack replied, sliding a fresh charge into his launcher. Around them, other humans fought with similar ferocity. There was Martinez, serving life for creating an AI that had achieved sentience and then liberating it. Her programming skills had turned the compound's defense systems against the invaders. Chen, The enhanced pilot who had refused to bomb civilian targets and stolen a destroyer in protest now coordinated their movements with tactical precision that would make any general weep. Each prisoner carried skills forged in desperation, refined by persecution, and sharpened by a system that had tried to break them. They were murderers and terrorists, rebels and revolutionaries, experiments and accidents. They were the people Earth's governments couldn't control, couldn't contain, couldn't kill. So they'd sent them to war. 48 hours later, Ambassador Threll stood in the ruins of Outpost Kryn 7, surrounded by mountains of Vorax corpses. The swarm that had conquered 17 planets in as many months had been stopped. Not defeated, that would take weeks, but stopped, held at bay by 100 humans who refused to break. Jessica leaned against a bullet-scarred wall, methodically cleaning her weapon. Nearby, Jack was already planning defensive improvements for the next assault. Around them, the surviving prisoners worked to fortify positions, tend to wounded aliens, and prepare for round 2. "I don't understand," Threll admitted, his translator struggling with the emotion in his voice. "You were sent here to die, yet you fight as if you have everything to live for." Jessica looked up, and for the first time Threll saw something beyond the hardened warrior. A glimpse of the person circumstances had forged. "You asked for soldiers, Ambassador. Soldiers fight for countries, for causes, for glory." She gestured to the other humans. "We're not soldiers. We're survivors. And survivors fight because it's the only thing we know how to do." Jack approached, his augmented arm stained with Vorax ichor. "Besides," he added with a grim smile, "you made us a promise. Help you win this war and we're free. We're not Earth's prisoners anymore, Ambassador. We're your army." Threll's species had no concept equivalent to the human expression of a smile, but his translator conveyed something that might have been respect. Then perhaps the galaxy asked for soldiers but received something far more dangerous. "What's that?" Jessica asked. "Hope," Threll replied, "carried on the backs of beasts that cannot be killed." The end.